Hi guys, Happy New Year, Happy 2025. Literally so weird that it's January. Don't need to talk about that. Let's talk about all of the books that I read in 2024. These videos are literally my favorite videos to watch every single year when they come out from my favorite book YouTubers. So I'm super excited to be making mine. We're gonna tier rank all of the books that I read. I read 51 books this year. I think this is the most books I've ever read in a year, which is so exciting. My goal for next year is to read 52 books because first of all, that's one more than what I read this year. And then also there's 52 weeks in a year, a book a week. Like that's a pretty good goal, I think. And I think I can achieve that. So let me just start screen recording. Also, so sorry again for the iPhone. The audio quality on my camera is simply not good. Let's get started. I'll tell you what my tiers are. So at the top, literally so annoying that they couldn't fit this all in one line, but the top is called Heartbreakingly Beautiful. These are for my most favorite books of this year, the books that I felt that just the most emotion while reading. They were heartbreaking, they were beautiful. Enough said. Pretty self-explanatory. And then the next tier we have is Live, Laugh, Love It. These are books that I either really liked or loved, but just like not high enough to get into the very top tier, but still really good books. And then in the middle here, I have So Solid. For this name of this tier, I was thinking of that one song, the one Muna song, Solid, where she's like, she's so solid. That's how I feel about these books. They're solid, they're average, they're kind of middle of the road. I liked them, and that's about it. They're solid books. And then getting into the ones that I maybe didn't like. This next tier is that these books have few redeeming qualities. They're just a bit below average, where there were still some things that I liked, some redeeming qualities, but overall not like the best as a whole. And then the last tier that I have is simply not for me. These books did not work for me for whatever reason, and they were just not for me. Less redeeming qualities than the tier right above it. So let's get started. I think I did everything in order of how I read them. For a lot of these books, I have talked about them before in other wrap-up videos on my channel. Shameless plug, go watch those, because for those books, I'm not going to give like a synopsis or like maybe too much in depth about them. But then the other books I didn't talk about on this channel, because I only started in July, I'll talk about maybe a little bit more, but who knows? Don't hold me to it. So starting off with an absolute banger, we have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is a classic, of course, just following 4 girls in the same family and their lives. And I absolutely love this book. I don't think that's a shocker. I found this, let's see if I can do this with one hand, hold on. Don't think I can. All right, this I found to be just so good, heartbreakingly beautiful. I just think it's like the perfect girlhood, womanhood story. It's so interesting that it's a classic. I think it was written in the 1800s maybe, and it's still like so relevant to like what the girls go through and what their emotions are. It literally feels like how I feel in, the 2025 year. And it is heartbreakingly beautiful. I cried. Also, I definitely, probably, most likely cried with all of these top books. So, you know what that means. This next row. I'm going to do all these kind of rapid fire without really talking about them. I don't really feel the need to kind of waste my breath on an author that I don't agree with. So yeah, that's all that you're getting from me from these next ones. I read these my last semester of college, and they were great for what they were in the moment. And that's all I'll be saying on that. Everyone knows their own opinion, so I don't need to add to the conversation on those books. Wild by Cheryl Strayed. This is a memoir recounting Cheryl Strayed's experience hiking the Pacific Crest Trail that runs on the Pacific coast. She hikes it alone, without any hiking experience, which is just crazy because it's like a months long journey. She goes through so much. She faces some insane hardships. She goes through some pretty terrible things before starting this journey. She can kind of emotionally grow and learn who she is as a person on this hike. And I thought it was an amazing memoir. I don't know where to put this because I don't really think about it super often, but there are some things that I think about that really stand out to me. And also I love to hike, so whenever I'm like talking about hiking or whatever with other people, I love to bring this book up. Also, there's one chapter in this book that made me sob like a baby because she talks about her mother and her connection with horses. I also have a mother who's connected to horses, and it made me really sad. So I think I'm going to put this up here, even though I maybe don't think about it as much as some of the other books that are going to go into this category, but I do still think it's really good. She's crazy for that. I listened to this. I'm pretty sure it is narrated by her. Oh, no, it's not. I listened to this. It was a great audiobook. And then next, I have Happy Place by Emily Henry. I think that I rated this 5 stars when I read it, but honestly, the more time that has passed, I don't think about it that much. I remember reading it and relating to the main characters like so much, like a disgusting amount kind of. Not like, I'm not disgusted, but it was just like really weird to see myself like portrayed on paper so much. And I was like, oh, this is a little triggering. But then as time goes by, I don't really think about it as much. And I think that there are other Emily Henry books that I do like a bit better. I think I'm going to put it into solid. I do just think it is like kind of a solid book now that I'm reflecting. This girl, and I think it's her fiance, maybe it's her husband, they split up and they go on this vacation with their friends and they don't realize that they're both going to be there at the same time, and it's kind of the first that they've seen each other since their breakup. So it's interesting. It's a fun look at like a second chance romance and like developing communication with the person that you like used to love and kind of rekindling that relationship, but then also with friendships that you maybe haven't like stayed in touch with as much. I did really like that aspect. Solid book, would recommend. I'm sure many people love this book that are watching this video. Next is Taylor Jenkins Reid with Carrie Soto's Back. I'm going to put this into so solid. This is a book about a woman, Carrie Soto, who is a professional tennis player, and it chronicles her life and her journey with tennis and with other people in her life, like her father, her mother, and just other people that she meets in the tennis world. She's this really, really, really talented tennis player, and eventually she retires, but years go by after she retires, and this other younger tennis star is about to break her winning record. So she comes out of retirement to maybe reclaim this record that's about to be broken. And it's a really good story. I didn't think that the like character arc was super compelling, and that's kind of why I put it into so solid. But I love a tennis book. Anything about tennis. I played tennis in high school, so I thought that was, really good for what it was, but other than that, the characters are kind of forgettable for me. Next, I'm getting into the ones that I definitely have wrapped up in previous videos, so if you want to know my full thoughts, go to those videos. Next, I have Tender is the Flesh. I would say that this is a solid book. I did really like it, so it could go into love it, but I don't know, I just love the way that it made me feel, like disgusted, really gross. This is about like some nasty stuff, cannibalism, and just the destigmatism of cannibalism in like this dystopian world. And it was very graphic and gross and freaky. Yeah, I would say it's a solid book. It's not for everyone for sure, and that's okay. Okay, next we have Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. I think I'm going to put this into few redeeming qualities, to be so honest. I did not love this book. I just didn't really find the story to be that interesting. The characters were nice. Here, let me just tell you what my few redeeming qualities are for this. I did like the characters. I listened to this via audiobook, which was narrated by Meryl Streep, and she's just like amazing, the GOAT, of course. And there's like some things that stand out to me. Like there was this one chapter about climate change and how that kind of impacts younger people's perspective on having children. That really impacted me, but other than that, I just didn't really find the story to be all that interesting. So only a couple redeeming qualities for me personally. It was an enjoyable time to listen to, but I really never think about it ever. Okay, next we have H is for Hawk by Helen MacDonald. I have talked about this one on this channel too, and I'm gonna put this one into Simply Not For Me, which is like really, really disappointing. This is a book that I was super excited about reading when I picked it up. This is also a memoir, which I do feel really bad about putting into this category, and I can really recognize how it is a great book, but it's just something that didn't really connect for me. It's a story about grief and this woman's recounting of her grieving her father and doing so by raising a hawk for falconing. And that really is such like an interesting story, but it just really didn't connect with me. There was also another aspect about this book where she would recount this other author and his life and his experience with falconing, and that wasn't on the back of the book. It totally shocked me because it was probably like 25% of the book was spent talking about this man that I just didn't care for. It was a weird situation. And so yeah, at this time in my life, it's just not for me. Pivoting completely, we have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I'm gonna put this one into So Solid, which maybe is a disservice to some of these guys because of how funny this book is, but I don't know. Yeah, I thought this was a solid fantasy book. I honestly had so much fun reading it, which I was not expecting. I was expecting it to be garbage. And, you know, I had a great time. I think I rated this like 4 stars. It definitely took a lot from other existing fantasy and dystopian books. Like, so much of it was taken from Divergent. But I will say I love Divergent, so I loved it in this book. It kind of shocked me that it was good, but just wait here for Iron Flame to come up and then you'll see where things pivot. Okay, next I've got My Side of the Mountain by Jean. I can't see the middle word. Jean George. I'm going to put this one into solid. It's not super memorable for me, but while I was reading it, it was enjoyable. Like a short children's classic about this little boy living on the side of the mountain by himself. I thought it was cute. It's a nice little outdoorsy read. Next, I have I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. I am going to put this right on up into the very top tier. I think that this is my most favorite book from this year. I absolutely love this book. It was such a pleasant surprise that I loved this so much. I don't know. I think that if you read this and you are a woman, you can really understand like where I'm coming from. It really is like an exploration of the main character, this woman, realizing who she is and discovering what it means to be a woman, discovering personhood, discovering like how to live your life by yourself. And in this really, really messed up environment, it's like a dystopian novel, but she goes through all of these things that we go through in like learning what it means to be a person, just all in this very short, condensed, weird environment. I love this so much. I thought it was absolutely amazing. I think anyone could read it outside of if you are a woman. I think it is such an enjoyable story no matter who is reading it. It's also super short. It flew by for me. I think I read it in like a day or two. And it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's also translated from French, and the translation is amazing. I just love this book so much, and I think everyone should read it. It really is such like a cool story aside from the whole like philosophical, psychological part of at least what I experienced. I think everyone could maybe take something different from this book, and what I took from it is that it was heartbreakingly beautiful. The last page, the last line, literally made me cry. It got my ass. Okay, next. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is a classic. This is like sad girl fiction, you know, the epitome of it. And I'm going to put it into Live, Laugh, Love It because that's what happened. I loved it. I just thought that this was a great book. The vibes are just so sad and melancholy. This was also written in the 50s, and just the emotions and feelings that this girl goes through, I'm just like, wow, That happens to me sometimes too, and I thought it was great. I really think that Sylvia Plath is such an interesting person as well. And I would love to read more of her. I think she just has poetry and then her journals. I would love to read her journals. Next, we've got Educated by Tara Westover. Please don't hate me, but this one was simply not for me. This is a memoir, and I just didn't really find it enjoyable. I thought that obviously it's not enjoyable because the subject matter is pretty dark, and the things that Tara goes through in her life is truly horrible, but I did not think that the story was really well written, I guess. That's kind of a terrible thing to say, because this whole book is about how she kind of educates herself after her parents refuse to give her an education, and it really harps on the importance of educating people and the power that knowledge and education has. How many times can you say education in one sentence? But I didn't really think that it was written super well. And I thought that the kind of jumps in her life were not explained super well. She goes from a survivalist family to studying at college, which I think was explained well. And then she goes from studying at college, teaching herself everything, learning social norms, and then going to Harvard and Cambridge or something like that. And I don't think that was explained very well, almost making it unbelievable. So in that aspect, I did not think it was a great explanation of her story or exploration of her life, honestly. I just didn't love this one. It was not for me. I also listened to this one on audiobook as well. Maybe that was a disservice to the book, because I didn't really think that things were super linear as far as my listening experience. It's not my favorite. I'm so sorry. I know people love this book, and it really does feel bad putting memoirs in this sort of position. So far, they're both memoirs. Sorry, guys. Okay, next we've got The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. I mess up a name every video. I'm going to put this one into Live, Laugh, Love It. This story I thought was amazing. What I love most about this book was the setting, and then also one of the narration point of views. I thought that was amazing. I love the themes in this book. I love kind of the history. It's definitely a super interesting book. I highly recommend reading this one. The imagery, the writing is beautiful. It really, really, really puts you in the spot in the story. And I love the narration, and it really makes me want to plant a fig tree in my garden. Next. Do we all know where this is going? This is going into Simply Not For Me, because this was some trash compared to Fourth Wing. I think that this is a common critique of this book, where Fourth Wing had so much hype, and then people are saying that Rebecca Yarros kind of rushed to get this one out for the story to continue and kind of maintain that success of the first one. And yeah, this one was simply not good. It was not good. The story was so bad. The development of the first book into the second book, and that was just terrible. I didn't think things were handled very well. It was literally, the first half was literally copy and paste of the first book and that story arc, and then the second half I thought was just confusing and messy. And yeah, I think in my previous video where I talked about this, I rated this 3-star. I'm bump that down to 2, because that bad boy was terrible the more that I think about it. Okay, next we've got Friedrich Bachmann's Anxious People. This has gone right into Live, Laugh, Love It, because this was an amazing, amazing book. I love Anxious People so much. I love the humor in this book. I also love all of the different people and storylines that Friedrich Bachmann creates with every single character in this book. It's just jam-packed with really compelling characters and really kind of common issues that people go through in their life, and it's just tackled so well. He addresses these issues with humor, but also with complexity and emotion. It's really, really, really great storytelling, and I simply love this book so much. And it's just barely missing this top tier. Barely. Next, we've got The Pachinko Parlor by Alicia Shua Dusipin. I'm going to put you right into So Solid. This is a shorty, a little book. I think it's only like 150 pages. I think I read this in one sitting. It's just a nice little read. The vibe is super melancholy and just very atmospheric. There's not too much development within characters or story or plot. It's really just vibes. And I thought it was solid. I liked it, but I don't ever think about it. But I love that cover as well. Amazing. Next, I have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Gonna put that one right on into, oh, hello. Live, Laugh, Love It, because I love this one. This is such a fun book. It's like a thriller almost. What's the most thrilling about it is that this character is doing these really awful and terrible things, and you're just like, girl, are you the stupidest woman on the planet? Yes, she is. Yes, she is, and she is so unhinged and crazy girl for doing what you do in this book. But I loved it. I loved every second of it. It took me like a day to read. Couldn't put it down. Had to know what Miss June was up to. I totally would recommend this book. I know that there's like a lot of really conflicting views about this. There's some definitely better people to talk about the criticisms of this book other than me, so I would recommend you do that if you're interested. But from my lowly perspective, I thought it was a great, entertaining read. And then next up, we have Circe by Madeline Miller. If you had asked me in 2021 what I would have thought this book would go into, it would not be this top one. Oh, hello, I can't reach it. But hell yeah, it's going in the top one. I loved this book so much. This is a Greek retelling of the goddess Circe. It's told in such a way where you just believe everything that's happening. You're like, oh my god, this totally happened. Totally trust you, Madeline Miller, even though it is like a fictional retelling of a literal myth. I love Circe. I love her as a character. I love her arc and her becoming the woman and the goddess that she is. I love the people that are involved in this story. Amazing. I also cried while reading this one. Common theme. Next one, Know My Name, Chanel Miller. Sobbed my little heart out while reading this, while listening to this. So I think you know where this is gonna go. Heartbreakingly Beautiful, that's what this book is. I listened to this as an audiobook, which was read by the author, and this is a memoir, by the way. It's a memoir of Chanel Miller's account of her being sexually assaulted and her case that followed, and just her journey of how that changed her life and her as a person, and really her kind of reclaiming her life and her story post this like really traumatic event. Really heartbreaking to listen to her read this story as well. I normally listen to memoirs via audiobook because normally if it's read by the author, you can kind of hear their emotion and really how they feel while reading this, and it really is like so well conveyed in this book specifically. And then another time where this happened was also with Jeanette McCurdy's memoir when she read that via audiobook. I think this book made me cry the most out of all of these. It really is such a beautiful story. She's a great storyteller as well, and I loved this book. I do think that if you were able to, I think that everyone should read this book. I think it's so compelling. Cried my eyes out listening to this one. Okay, next we have Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. I'm going to put this one into So Solid because while I do really love this book and my experience reading this, I've read this a few times, I do think that maybe the movie is better. I don't know. Like, I do kind of feel bad comparing the movie to the book. They are super different. The reason that I read this book is for the vibe. Truly the vibe. The setting is amazing, and just the yearning is like, you could cut that tension with a knife. Like, holy cow, it's so good. Maybe I should put this into Live, Laugh, Love It. But I would say I do love the movie more, and I just, the movie is so good that it's almost like the book is put down a little bit because the movie is that much better. I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it in solid because solid is like a good rating still. Next we have Shady Hollow by Juno Black. I'm gonna put this one into so solid, I think, as well. Oops, that's not where I want it. I really love the story. It's a cute little cozy fantasy murder mystery sort of series where all the main characters are animals. It's in this little fictional forest world where they're just solving some crimes, and I think that it's great. It definitely is super predictable in all of these books, which is, you could do a little bit better with hiding who it is. It's pretty solid. I like it for the vibes, and it's super easy to read. I think I read this in a day as well. We've got A Man Called Ove by Friedrich Bachmann. I don't like this one as much as Anxious People, so I'm gonna put this one into so solid because, it's a solid book. The one thing that I don't love about this book in comparison to Anxious People, there's two different translators. Because originally I think these are written in Swedish. This translation is really not my favorite. Maybe it's not the translator's fault, but maybe it's just like Friedrich Bachmann's writing evolution, because this one was written before Anxious People. I love the story, and that's why it's in so solid. I thought it was a good book, definitely enjoyable, but I didn't love the writing of this, the writing style, and it just felt like every sentence was like hyperbole, metaphor, simile. Every single literary device under the sun is just used over and over and over, and then it just got like so repetitive and so tiring, and the whole time I was like really being taken out of the story because of the poor translation, poor writing quality of this one. So don't love that one as much as I love Anxious People. But we move forward. Next, we have The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesty. I can't read that. I'm sorry. This is just a cute little short story, little illustrated something or another. I'm going to put this one in solid. It's not very memorable to me, but while I was reading it, I loved the art style of this book, and the messages were pretty cute. I think that this would be really nice for like a child, and it was cute. Next, we have Sarah J. Maas with The Assassin's Blade. I'm going to put this one into so solid. This is a collection of novellas that are prequels to the Throne of Glass series. The first story kind of took a while for me to get into, and then the rest of them were just so good. So good. I wouldn't say I love it, though. I've got some interesting opinions about my experience reading The Assassin's Blade and then Throne of Glass after. I just really regret that decision, unfortunately. But I do think that The Assassin's Blade is better than Throne of Glass. I'm kind of jumping the gun here because it's kind of a few down the road, but I do think that this is a solid book. I love the kind of end novellas. The last one, pretty sad. Next, I have The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. I'm going to put this one into so solid as well because pretty solid for me. This is kind of like all vibes sort of thing. Again, super, super melancholic as well. It's a good book. I think you do kind of have to like shift your perspective while reading this. Literally crazy story. I really liked it. I thought it was super atmospheric. There are like some scenes in this book that like, it's just, I can envision them so well. And it's not because I've seen the movie. It's because he's written it so well on the page. And I think that that is truly a talent. I don't absolutely love this book, but I do think it's pretty good. I have The Guest by Emma Cline. This one, do I love this? I don't know. I don't think I love this. I think this is solid. Oop, we're starting a new row. This is a short little book about this woman who is, kind of experiencing some life problems. She's kind of floating through life. And where you're following her in this book, she is living on Long Island with this older man. She does something, kind of maybe unsavory, I guess. And he kicks her out and is just like, go back home, go back to New York City, leave me. I don't want to hang out with you anymore. And so instead of doing what she's told and going back to her life in the big city and just leaving her kind of sugar daddy life behind her, she's like, oh no, I'm going to get this man back. I'm going to get him back at this big Labor Day party that's in a week. And so she stays on Long Island and just kind of flits through other people's houses. She develops some interesting relationships with some other people on the island. And yeah, that's about it. I really like this book. I thought it was solid. It's super short. It doesn't really give you a lot as well. I mean, you get so much of who the character is, which is such a funny character. I really liked her. But you're kind of given crumbs. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I do think that this is a pretty solid book. It's not super memorable, but then when I do see this cover, I'm like, oh, what a nice little story. Next, we've got Throne of Glass. I'm going to put this one into few redeeming qualities. I was just so upset from reading Assassin's Blade first. There's so many little fun reveals that are in this book that would be revealed if you read Assassin's Blade later, and I read that first, so I knew everything that she was kind of alluding to and kind of gearing up to make the story crazy. So I was like, oh, this sucks. I know everything. This is boring. It was kind of boring. I know that the series does get better as you go on, kind of get into the more meatier books. But honestly, I thought that, the plot of this one, not my fave. Also, the characters. I did like the magic system of this one a little bit, as opposed to her other series. I'm one of Akatar's biggest haters. Don't tell anyone. But I'm just pissed at myself for reading Assassin's Blade first. I thought that's what you were supposed to do. Anyways, only a few redeeming qualities here. I would like to continue the series. Don't know when that's going to happen, though. Next, we've got Kristen Hanna's The Nightingale. Where should I put this? Right into so solid, because that's what this was. I maybe have an unpopular opinion about this book. I thought that the writing was kind of really plain. I think that Kristen Hanna is kind of known for having these really compelling stories, and I've heard that she's a really great writer, but I honestly thought this was kind of lackluster a little bit. I thought that the story was amazing. It's a historical fiction about these fictional sisters. The stuff that they go through in the book is actually real things that women living in France during World War II actually went through. And I love reading the stories about what the girls were up to. It's a really great story. It's kind of known for being this heartbreaker as well, at least The Nightingale. I'm sure other Kristen Hanna books are like this. And I just didn't really feel super connected to the story. It was almost like the plot was really what was driving the book more than the actual characters, which I don't think was Kristen Hanna's intention. I think it's supposed to be more of a character book. And I just didn't really find that to be the case for me personally. And that's okay. Not everyone connects with some books. I did think that it was still good. I think it's a book that people should read to kind of learn more about this part of history and these women specifically, because holy cow, amazing. But yeah, I was kind of let down by this book. I did cry, but it's not going up here with these bays. Sorry. We've got The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by, who is this? Sangu Mandana. I'm going to put this one into Live, Laugh, Love It, because it was so fun. I love this book. This is just a fun little witchy, fantasy, silly little romance. I thought it was really good. A lot of times I don't love contemporary romances, and I thought this one was great. I thought that it was, better than solid. It was lovable even. I would like to reread this next year during October, because that was great. A great little read. Okay. Next we've got My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I'm going to put that one up into... Wait, sorry, my finger won't reach. There we go. Heartbreakingly Beautiful, because that's what this was. Maybe it's not beautiful, but it was heartbreaking for sure. I think I've said this a billion times. This is a reversal of Lolita, where it's told from the girl's perspective. It's just about this girl who falls in love with her much, much older teacher, and just how that changes her whole life. And I thought that this was just so sickening and truly, truly heartbreaking and really sad, but ultimately a really beautiful story, I guess. We'll tie that in there. not a laughing matter, but I did really like this book. I don't think that this would be for everyone. Like, please proceed with caution sort of thing. But I really liked it. I thought that it was crazy. And I was feeling every emotion that this girl was feeling, that I was like, ugh, don't need to do that. But I do think that this author is super talented with her writing and her storytelling skills. And yeah, love this book. Next, we've got The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I'm going to put this one into Love It because it just misses Heartbreakingly Beautiful, because I think the more that I think about this book, the more that I'm realizing that the characters were kind of not all that. The setting of this book and the story of this book were so amazing, so beautiful, and that's what really truly made me love it. And I do like the characters for who they are, but I do think they're kind of surface level the more that I think about it. And I do think it would have made it that much better if the characters were a little bit more fleshed out, which is okay. I still love this book, and I think about it semi-often. I do think I would love to reread this eventually, but yeah, it's just missing that Heartbreakingly Beautiful. Next, we have, beautiful, beautiful story. We've got Neil Gaiman's Coraline. Gonna put that one right on up into Love It. This is my first time reading Coraline. I love the movie so much. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I read this book, and equally as disturbing and gross and scary for a children's book. The illustrations in here are great. The story is great. Truly, truly an amazing, haunting little story. I love that one. Next, I read Slewfoot. I think, did I say this already? I read these in like a little fall reading vlog, so go check that out if you want to see me read some spooky books. I thought this one was a solid book. This is a folkloric little story, I think based in real folk tales, fairy tales, indigenous stories, all that jazz. This is kind of fun. This is a fun little read. It's not my favorite. I did think that the pacing was kind of slow, so it took me a really long time to read. I thought it was going to go much quicker though, so I didn't love this one, but I do like the story for what it was, and it's definitely enjoyable for like spooky season. It gives me the same vibes as The Witch, that movie by Robert Eggers, I think that's what his name is. Fun folk horror vibes in this book. Next, we've got Smother Moss by Alyssa Allering. I'm going to put this one into a few redeeming qualities because while I do like this book, I think that some of the themes just went right over my head, unfortunately. I don't know if I'm smart enough to figure that one out. This is, I think, magical realism, and it's kind of like this dark, gothic sort of story. There's a lot of personification as far as nature and the mountain, and I really did like that because it's set in like rural Appalachia. Spooky, scary vibes because, that's scary, first of all. And I did really like the setting, but I do just think that some of like the magic and the themes and the things that were happening to the main character of this book were just, it was just not hitting home for me, unfortunately. I do still like some parts of this. Also, do you know that one story that's in the scary, is it in the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books? Of that one, the girl with the green ribbon? You know what I'm talking about? There's like some of that in there, which I kind of love. Like, I love that. I think that maybe in a few years I'll maybe try and reread that, see if my opinions change, but not right now. Not right now. Okay, next we've got Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. I think I'm going to put this one into solid. I liked it a lot, but I wouldn't say I absolutely loved it. This is a short little classic that I think actually inspired Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is like the first vampire novel, and the vampire is, she's a cute little girly. I love the story in this book and the atmosphere. Oh my goodness, the atmosphere is just delicious. I also recently got this edition from a thrift store, and it's so cool. It's got illustrations in it. So sick. It just misses my love tier because I wish it was longer. I wish it was longer. It's only like 70 something pages, the version that I read on Kindle. Super short, which is nice. Nice to have a short little compelling read, which this is what it was. But also, I just wish it was like, I wish there was some more meat, some more of Miss Carmela and the main character. I forget what her name is. Next, we've got Cold Clay. I'm going to put that into a few redeeming qualities. This is in the same series of Shady Hollow. This is the second book. This just was really predictable for me, and I didn't love it as much as the first one. The first one, so good. Still the same vibe and same characters and setting. Just didn't. I don't love this one. I don't love the story of this. There's like some unnecessary conflicts happening. I'm just like, ugh. Next, we've got Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. I read this for a book club with my friends from college. Love them so much. Didn't love this book, unfortunately. This is, I think, a classic, maybe. It was really sad, but not really in like a, I don't know, it was just not really satisfying. There were some good lessons, but I think that they were good in the time period. I think this was written in maybe the 30s or 40s. It's not really something new for us today. Like, I think it's kind of common sense. I didn't love this one. It was kind of just like sad for nothing and really tragic. And it's like the way that the main character was treated in this book was really terrible. And then also the little mouse. Next, we've got The Cat Who Saves Books. This is by Sangu Nadasukua. I'm going to put this one into solid. I thought this was a fun little read. This is Japanese fiction, so it's got that cozy, fantastical story about a cat with books. You know that kind of discourse about Japanese fiction always involving books and bookstores and cats somehow, and this like fantastical journey. That's what happened here, and I thought it was really good. It was a nice story. I will say I kind of rushed reading this, so maybe I didn't appreciate it as much as I probably could have been, but I love the simple little stories and lessons that were in this book. It was pretty enjoyable. Next, we've got Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I think I'm going to put this one into solid as well. Nope, go in order. My fingers won't reach. Hold on. It's very drama-filled. It's like London Gossip Girl. It was fun for what it was. It was really crazy, pretty repetitive, kind of whiplashy, but, it was fun in the moment, and I would like to continue this series because I think it gets better as it goes on. We'll see, I guess. Next, we've got Birding with Benefits by Sarah T. Dubb. I love the cover. I love birding, and I was like, ooh, a fun little romance with birding in it. And I read it, and it was underwhelming. It was underwhelming for sure. I don't love some, like the way that contemporary romances are written with like the meet cute, and then they date, and then they start to fall in love, and then there's a third act breakup, and then all of a sudden they get back together. This kind of followed that same structure, and I don't love that. But then the third act breakup started around like the 60% mark, and then went on to like 95, and then all of a sudden they were together at the end. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but it's kind of self-explanatory with like a contemporary romance book. And I didn't love this. I didn't really find the characters to be that interesting. I didn't love the writing style. I will say though, the few redeeming qualities here, let me just tick them off real quick. I did like how they were birding. Like, that was kind of fun. I don't think that there was anything interesting to say from the author about that though, which is unfortunate. Whatever, it's fine. What else did I like? Okay. I'm going to get so real right now. I normally don't like spice in books. I will say that this one was written really well. But then it was interesting because they were so communicative and emotionally mature within that. And then the whole reason that they had a third act breakup was because they were not communicative and not emotionally mature. So I was like, where is the consistency here, And those are the two redeeming qualities, I think. Also the cover. Love the cover so much. Okay, next we've got Mirror Lake, again by Juno Black. This is the third book in the Shady Hollow series, and I like this one better than the second. Not as much as the first, but I like this one. I thought that the story was fun. I did guess what happened. But I did think that the story was like enjoyable to read, even though I knew what happened, versus the second one, I knew what happened, and then I was like, this is boring. So I like that one. They're easy. They're super easy and they're fun. Final stretch here, we've got the last 3 books. We've got Outline by Rachel Cusk. I think I'm going to put this one into solid. I really like this book. This book is about this writer who travels to Greece to teach a writing course. And that's really kind of all that you get about the main character, because the rest of this book is told in 10 conversations with people that she knows, people that she meets, like strangers. And so they're really interesting conversations. And through that, you get teeny tiny smidges and tidbits of who the main character is. And that's why it's called Outline, because through these 10 conversations, you kind of get an outline of who this character is, but not like a full flushed out description of who she is. You don't even know her name until I think the last or second to last story or conversation in the book. And I thought it was so fun. Each of the kind of like conversations were so kind of like philosophical too, for some reason. Like, who is she talking to? How is she finding these people where you can have all these like really profound conversations all the time? Because when me and my friends talk, and when I talk to strangers, it is nothing like this. Holy cow. It just must be like a testament to the main character, is like kind of what she pulls out of people. It's so interesting. And I would love to continue the series to kind of see how that develops, because I think that this could kind of stand on its own. I thought that Rachel Cusk's writing was amazing. But I didn't say that I loved it, you know? I did still rate this 4 stars. I thought it was great. Not my most favorite, though. Next, we have Coco Meller's Blue Sisters. This I also read for my best friend's book club. I'm going to put this one into so solid as well. Blue Sisters is about this family of sisters who were once really, really, really close. And after one of the sisters dies, not a spoiler, part of the synopsis, after one of the sisters dies, the 3 remaining sisters all kind of just split up, go their separate ways, don't really have that same connection as when it was all 4 of them. And so the book follows them the year after their sister had passed, and it's just about them kind of coming back to each other and really rekindling this sisterhood that they once had while they're missing and grieving one of their sisters. And I thought it was really good. It doesn't really hit the like love it, because the more that I think about it post reading it, I'm like, some of this was not very good. Like, it's super interesting. Coco Meller's I read another book by her and I didn't love it because I thought that the story, or like, it was very character driven and I didn't really love the characters. But for this, I thought that the characters were very interesting and the story was interesting as well. But Coco Mellers was writing in this book where there would be things sprinkled here and there that were either so good and she just like wouldn't acknowledge them, or they would be like kind of common literary devices and then she would like really point them out to the reader. And I was like, you don't want to like let us figure this out for ourselves, sort of thing. There are also some parts where she would really repeat the same qualities of a character to kind of emphasize them, but without really like giving meaning to that. It was weird. I was like, do you think that your reader is dumb? Because we're not. Like, we remember when you said that the first time. And yeah, it was a solid book. I wouldn't say that I like absolutely love it though. So solid. All right, next we have Robin Wall Kimmerer with Breeding Sweetgrass. Gonna go right on up into love it. This is the last book that I read in 2024. This is a nonfiction book. Robin Wall Kimmerer is a naturalist. She's an ecologist, and she's also a professor at the college that I went to. I sadly never got to take a class with her, but it's just really cool. This is a book about Indigenous knowledge and stories and storytelling, and really the kind of connection that Indigenous people have to the land and how other people maybe don't have that. And her like view and lens on life and on nature is so so beautiful, so life-changing, so eye-opening. It's common sense, but it's also like the Western world that we live in, or at least what I live in, is so just desensitized and detached from nature and the earth and the ground that we are standing on, living on. The indigenous perspective on nature is just amazing, and she kind of details that through personal experience that she has and stories that other people have, tidbits of wisdom sprinkled out through every chapter. I thought this was amazing. It also just really hits home for me because, like I said, she was a professor at my school, and a lot of the stories that she tells are based on the area that I went to school in, up in upstate New York, Syracuse, and yeah, I thought it was just amazing and so kind of personal to that. I think everyone living and breathing should read this book. Doesn't even matter if you're in North America, anywhere, you should read this. Ended up listening to this via audiobook because Kimmer narrates it. Part of like indigenous culture is storytelling, obviously, and like oral storytelling. So she is a really great storyteller, and I love listening to her read this book, and it really just does feel like a great format to actually listen to this book. Also, it's great because you can hear the correct like pronunciations, names, and words. I just thought that was great as well. I'm just outside of this Heartbreakingly Beautiful. Those are all of the books that I read in 2024. Hell yeah. I kind of knew it was going to be like this. I have a lot of solid books. I'm so happy though that I don't have a lot of books that just weren't for me. I think I kind of know my taste pretty well. Like this is pretty top heavy as far as the books that I like, which I'm very happy about. Hopefully I can, hit that same streak of books that I think are heartbreakingly beautiful, books that I think are live, laugh, lovable, and solid books in this new year. I'm so excited for books that I'm going to read this year. I'm so excited to, inevitably tier rank them at the end of next year. I'm already thinking about that. For a little extra tidbit, I'm going to rank these real quick. Doot. 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 These could be interchangeable. I'm not going to rank the rest, but these are my favorite books of the year. These are my least favorite. That's about ranked as right too. I hope you enjoyed watching. I would love to know what your favorite books and least favorite books of 2024 were. If you guys agree or disagree with my rankings, let me know where you would put things. Again, thank you so much for watching. So good to see you in this new year in 2025. And I hope to see you again in this next year of videos. We'll see what this year takes us, where the wind blows us. Anyways, I will see you in the next one. Bye.